Welcome to Build Zambia 2064 podcasts. As always, we always talk about things of interest, the nation. We are building Zambia and we want Zambia to be a first world nation by 2064. And as usual, I'm with my colleague, Dr. Joseph from Shalika. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back on this podcast.
Yeah, so today we are talking about politics, and the impact that politics has had on development, on the social strata, and all what endeavors to do with politics. I'm looking at the period that we've had political independence, and that is 61 years now.
Mm-hmm.
We had Kaunda come through with UNIP, for 27 years. And they won the independence. We had a run with them. Mm-hmm. And then we had Chiluba come through also with MMD. And then Mwanawasa, then we had Rupia Banda in the same party. Mm-hmm. And then PF took over through, Sata, Michael Sata, and then, Mr. Lungu himself, who probably is our last president before our current. Mm-hmm. And now we have Hichilema, who is the current president. What do you think politics has done to this country? Has it brought benefits, or it's a total waste of time?
Well, brilliant. You have no choice. Whatever you think, we still need the politics. Anyways, it's a good discussion, and I want to say, for a start, that politics is about leadership. Okay, it's about leadership. And when we talk about leadership, we are simply saying a group of people that take the responsibility to take the lead in getting the nation realize its vision, if at all it has a vision. Mm-hmm. Okay? So for starters, I want to indicate that our current political dispensation, beginning with independence, is an imported system. And we need to understand that it's an imported system because originally we had our own politics, which were run by traditional leaders. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the structure was that we had chiefs. Mm-hmm. A chief is supported by headmen, or depending on a locality, by sub-chiefs, and these were the people dispensing what we would call leadership. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they were in charge of justice. They were in charge of sharing resources, giving access, to the people. Yeah. And in essence, the chiefdom arrangement was such that there was no election, per se, as we know it today. There was no election. So it was something that was in the bloodline, kingdom idea, arrangement, Yeah. It was something that is on the bloodline. So you are in the Monze chiefdom line, they know who is next. And it didn't matter. You didn't need to campaign. Maybe you campaigned within the tribal grouping, but there was nothing like what we see now. So fast forward, we got colonized, and if you want to remember very well, our first rulers was just a British, company, BSA, British South African company, Cecil Rhodes and team. And their interests were our resources. Mm-hmm. So the first interest was, this is a place that has copper, this is a place that has all the wealth that we need. And so let us extend our territorial authority from Britain to here. Yeah. Okay? So when they came, they brought with them a governance system which resembles their system. Mm-hmm. So you needed a parliament, you needed a council, you needed police officers, you needed a commissioner, which were not very indigenous. They were not our idea. So they took over, and then from the BSA came the full throttle British colonial government, which also had its administration resembling where they came from. And I want you to understand that because it has a lot of impact on how we do our politics now. Mm-hmm. So down the line, there was the independence struggle, beginning with the upheavals in the mining area, where people like Lawrence Katilungu, Donald Swale were not satisfied with how the colonial government was treating the indigenous people. So there was that struggle, and ultimately it became full throttle political, where our local people demanded that they needed self-rule. Okay, so the Harry Mwanga Nkumbula formed the political party, Kenneth Kaunda, Simon Mwansa Kapwepwe, the Mbikustarewanicas, a whole lot of very courageous, we could call them young men of those days, very, very courageous, and they took on the colonial administration. As we were getting down to 1962, it was getting clearer that we were going to have self-rule. Okay, and then October 1964, the colonial rulers, I don't like to call them colonial masters, colonial rulers, the colonial rulers gave up. Okay, but I want you to understand that in their giving up authority, they didn't allow us to create our own system. Okay, so we inherited a constitution, which was their constitution. We exchanged the flags. The Union Jack was replaced by the Zambian flag. The whole system of governance remained what they were, except that now we had Africans in offices occupied by whites, but reading from the same book. Okay, so we still had the Public Order Act, which is still a problem, 61 years down the line. We still had that colonial legislation, which was meant to, not allow people to freely associate. Just use a law that would stop you from assembling and expressing. We inherited that. We inherited a system where you had the president and you needed ministers, and incidentally, our own people went to occupy the houses that were occupied by the colonizers. And I want to say they probably also took over the thinking of the colonizer. They also took over the thinking of the colonizer. So we seemed to be politically independent, but systematically colonized.
Okay.
All right. So
if you're going to put it that way, you've written a whole book on the Zambian presidents, which is called, of course, Build Zambia. What is your idea of politics in that book?
Well, the idea there is to showcase the transitioning. We may paint a very gloomy picture of the beginning, but I think we have been moving. We've been moving, and perhaps this is where we are still making arguments about BIOS. Should we have BIOS 7? Should we have all that? We'll reach there. But then the whole idea was, look, we took independence. What was the purpose of that independence? And the whole purpose of that independence was fully expressed in what we call symbols of the nation. Our coat of arms, which was showing the natural resources that we have, a man and a woman demonstrating work gear, with an eagle above there, with tools of agriculture and mining, trying to show the direction this country was going to take. We had a beautiful national anthem, Stand and Sing of Zambia, proud and free, land of work, Africa is our own motherland, one land, our nation is our cry, dignity. We said a lot of things. So when KK took over, the idea was that we are going to have a Zambia that has Zambian development ideas that benefit Zambia. Did very well. We had our own cabinet. We started to build our own university. We increased access to school. We increased access to health facilities, but it did not take very long. It didn't take very long. We began to see that the local leadership was not ready enough to say, what should be a Zambian education system be? So we continued with an education system that was foreign. we again did not think, what should a Zambian health system be? We continued with the health system of the colonizer. We did not think, what should be a Zambian justice system? Did you know that the laws of Zambia, common law, you judge people based on odd laws of Britain? You know, odd, very odd laws of Britain. All this thing about whatever is above your land and beneath your land, those are colonial rules. We never got to say, what is it that is going to be Zambian? So ultimately, what determines the success of leadership is economic prosperity. So we began to see a country that at independence was doing so well began to dwindle economically. And we cannot run away from it. The colonizer had a hand in it. Okay, they still had interests in all these things. And so we saw KK having new struggles. Okay, what were those new struggles? There are people with whom he struggled for independence with, who began to think, we can lead better. That's where our politics begins to boil. We can lead better. And so we began to see divisions. These divisions we see in political parties are not new. They are endemic. They don't seem to end. We began to see those things. And so we saw KK moving that, look, if we are going to continue with multipartism, we will not grow the country. If we are going to continue with multipartism, we will not grow the country. So he moved with an idea of getting into a one-party state, and he called it one-party participatory democracy. So it's one party, but you participate. It's one party.
Is that the time when we were voting for a frog or something?
Yeah, just hold on. We went into that. And with the coming of one party, the ideology of humanism began to grow. Very good idea. I mean, KK was saying man at the center of whatever we do. But again, it comes with power. I don't know what happens with power. We began to see a shift from national development to strengthening of UNIP. Where UNIP was now becoming more important
than the nation.
The political party was becoming more important than the nation. And you'd remember, if you were there those days, you'd wear a badge. It pays to be UNIP.
I remember the badges.
Yeah, it pays to be
with a fire,
with a fire, the flame of the future.
Yes.
I
remember.
It pays to be.
I wore that thing.
And people got jobs.
Yeah, because of that.
Not because they were qualified, but because they were UNIP. People got into parastatals to run very complex businesses on the basis that they were UNIP. So with the coming of the one-party participatory democracy, we began to see the shrinking of space for people with divergent voices. So space shrunk. Until we got to a level where, in essence, elections were at council and parliamentary level. At presidential level, it was a joke.
To even think.
Because KK would be the sole candidate. You go to Mulungushi Rock of Authority and say, our sole candidate for these elections is KK. But because it's a democracy, the other candidate will be frog. So people lined up
to vote
yes for KK or vote no for the frog. So sometimes you wonder how Africans think, and I don't know what the world was thinking about us. I don't really understand. So KK would always beat the frog, or even if the frog beat him, it wasn't aware.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
And so with that, we saw the rise of the power of party vigilantes. Those days we didn't call them cadres. We saw the rise of the power of party vigilantes. By the way, in those days, even a pupil at secondary school needed a UNIP card. And we had cards of different colors. Youth, I don't know if it was green, women, from the Women's League, and then we had the general membership card. And so the party card became very critical. Now, the strengthening of UNIP didn't have a corresponding strengthening of the economy. We were making the party bigger, and ultimately we created a Kaunda monster, where it became impossible to think that anyone would compete for power with the powerful KK. Okay? And you remember there were slogans those days. Kumuru, Lesa, Panshi, Kaunda. Our youths today may not understand that. But there was a time in this country when you do not talk about Kaunda the way we talk about Ichirema.
Yeah. Kaunda.
Where you can go in a bus and say Ichirema has failed. Not in the Kaunda days. You cannot do that. Okay? So he became so powerful, very, very powerful. A few people tried to challenge him. One of his closest friends, Kapwepwe, tried. And I think his political career ended very prematurely because the environment was very toxic.
Yeah.
Okay? And then you had people like Kavindele, one of the very last UNIP conferences. Enoch Kavindele, former vice president, tried to challenge KK. Okay, and we are told that very elderly women went to protest at Kavindele's chalet half naked. You cannot challenge KK. You cannot do that. But time moves, and that's why people in politics must always learn.
Yeah.
That there comes a time.
They don't seem to learn all the time.
There comes a time when you can push only to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Okay, so people got tired. And what did we see? Beginning around 1988, voices of dissent, voices of dissatisfaction began to increase. Okay, and coming down to 1989, it was getting louder and louder, until we got to 1990, when a group of men and women who were not so happy with where UNIP was taking the country. Shortages became the order of the day. And I'm telling you, a young person living today cannot understand that people were born and would get to grade 2 without ever seeing a bottle of Coca-Cola. You could not see Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Apples were fruits of the elite.
I remember eating rice and chicken only on
Christmas Day. Apples. Today you see apples on the streets.
Yeah.
It had to take some effort to get to that level. Intercity bus terminus was a hive of trouble.
Yeah.
Because there were no buses, shortage of transport. Going to Kabwe, you needed to plan for 2 days. Because you spend a night at Intercity. There were shortages of mini meal, shortages of sugar, big parastatal shops with shelves only. We got to a level where if there was a commodity that was not selling and a commodity that was in need arrived, you would be forced to buy sugar with Vim, even if you didn't need Vim. I remember those days when I was going to school, Tropicals. But I didn't have Tropicals.
Yeah.
You'd just hear Matropico yafika kumatero. And everyone would be running to Matero. Yeah. People would sleep in the queue.
Yeah.
To buy
Tropicals.
Tropicals, not shoes, Tropicals. Okay? So things got out of hand.
Yeah.
And meantime, it appeared Kaunda was more interested in strengthening his Muyaya position than in dealing with the economy. Okay? Today, when I hear the current president talking about let's depoliticize development, I tend to go back and say he's right. He's right. Because if we do too much politics, this is where we can go. So we had lawyers from the Law Association of Zambia. We had former army people, General Mianda, General Christian Tembo. We had, because prior to 1990 and even 1990, we began to see an increase in coup efforts.
Yeah.
The military trying to take over because they were dissatisfied.
Yeah.
Okay, so all those were thwarted until we had the Mwamba Luchembe coup attempt in 1990, July 1990. Now, following that coup attempt, I think it came to KK's mind that you can suppress people, but not forever. You can suppress people, but not forever. So I think he began to engage people. People say, guys, what do you want? You know, and the general cry was that we wanted to go back to multi-party politics. And so Frederick Chiluba of the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions, who was president at that time, people from the labor movement, people from, I remember Levi Manawasa, former president as well, other politicians, some of whom were UNIP, came together and said, no, let's form a movement. And that movement was called the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy. This is why I am unhappy when I hear that we have a new party replacing MMD. I think that kills our history. Okay, let's leave it to them. But I think that kills our history. Personally, I don't think it's a very good move. So we had the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy. It was not a political party. It was a civil society organization agitating for a return to multi-party politics. And we had very brilliant young men that time. Wo Akashamba Twambiksteonika, Derek Mbita Chitala, Dean Mungomba, brilliant men. Zambia has talent. It has people, And all these people began to talk, began to agitate for a return to multi-party politics. And we had very powerful people, very intelligent people, including Anderson Kambela Mazuka. He was MMD. Very, very powerful people. And the pressure became huge, such that KK decided that we should have a referendum. Let's have a referendum to return to multipartyism. But when he saw that the pressure was too much, and that's what I can say, kwenyu for KK, kudos to KK, he decided, I think even the referendum is not necessary. So he repealed Article 4 of the Constitution and allowed for reintroduction of multi-party politics. Okay? So with that return, what did we see? We saw that the country was hungry for change. So there was a lot of talk, a lot of push, and the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy transitioned from a pressure group to a political party. And they went and had elections, democratic elections, where President Chiluba emerged as president of the Movement for. And then fast forward campaigns. And the elections were 31st October, and Kaunda was beaten. Okay. Then we got into multipartyism. We began well. We began very well. What did we do? Immediately, we saw change of laws that would allow for end of shortages. Immediately we saw DCMs. If you remember a bus called DCM.
I used to get on the DCM.
DCMs, all of a sudden, where intercity was a hive of activity. We began to see the rise of Tuntemba, sugar, and other things were now available. We began to see opening up of things. And Chiluba's administration focused on transparency and accountability and economic liberalization. So that economic liberalization was aimed at giving Zambians an opportunity to participate in the economic transformation of the country. And fast forward, again, I don't know what happened. There were differences in the MMD. And this seems to be our problem. The hunger for power. There were differences, and what did we see? We saw Humphrey Mlemba resign, form his own party. We saw Akashamba Twandi's sister resign and form Agenda for Zambia. We saw Dean Mungomba resign and form Zadeco. We saw all these other parties. And so the powerful team, which Chiluba had put together, became disintegrated, including BY, Ben Mwila, who was a loyalist, left and formed the, was it RP, Republican Party, And so all of a sudden, we had so many political parties. And unfortunately, we saw that President Chiluba's focus was destroying UNIP. So there was this push towards destroying UNIP. Okay? And 1996, there was a constitutional amendment
Yes.
where we now said whoever is going to be president of this country must have both parents of Zambian descent. And we all knew KK's parents were, KK's father was from Malawi.
Yeah.
So he knew this law is against me. You know, the law is against me, and so decided to boycott the 1996 election.
Yeah.
And for purposes of refreshing people's memories, that could be said to be the beginning of the end of UNIP.
Yeah.
You know, because it meant in the next parliament there would be no UNIP.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they were the biggest opposition party, the longest serving party. So there was no UNIP. It was now fully MMD with splinter parties, original MMD. And there was all this struggle. But then, interestingly, when Chiluba was in the second term, he began maneuvers that were suggestive that he was not willing to step down when his 10 years are over.
Yeah.
Okay? And what did we see? We saw the presidential slush fund, you know, money being dished out anyhow. We saw the rise of a new vigilante cadarism arrangement. We saw appointments of district administrators who are now district commissioners. We saw shifts in the party where Michael Sata became the Secretary General of the party. And all of a sudden there was talk of a third term.
Yeah.
You know, talk of a third term. And hey, that became hot. And again, when we moved very strong in the third term talk, what suffered? The development agenda.
Yeah.
Because now it was politics. Okay? So, third term, of course, Chiluba never came out in the open to say he wanted it. The only thing he said was that this is the democracy we fought for, and so we leave the people to decide what they want. You know, although he had power to say, no, we can't go that route.
Yeah.
But he said, no. He was quiet and said, no, come on, let's do that. And what did we see? We saw, using Michael Sata, the systematic removal of potential powerful people.
Yeah.
You know, I remember at that time, Anderson Mazoka was in Bauleni. I don't know what he was. Was he chairman of something? And we saw Sata saying, look, you cannot aspire for a higher position if you have not served for 5 years in a lower position. And they were about to go to a convention, meaning barring people like Mazoka from contesting positions like vice president and places like that. So ultimately, the third term politics led to the disintegration of the MMD. Because we saw very powerful people, 2 former vice presidents, General Mianda, General Tembo, leaving. We saw a former Minister of Agriculture and Minister of Finance, Edith Nawakwi, leaving. We saw 22 senior MMD ministers leaving. And what happened? Mianda formed the Heritage Party. Even them, leaving MMD, they could not come together and form one party.
But they had to.
General Tembo formed the FDD, you know. Yeah. And we had all this. There was a lot of confusion. And strangely, for whatever reason, FTJ went back to Manawasa and brought him back to be the MMD candidate for 2001. Then we saw the boss himself, Michael Sata, leaving the MMD to go and form the Patriotic Front. And at that stage, you begin to think, is the interest of these politicians Zambia or self-preservation? You know, why are you all disappearing?
Yeah.
Is it a difference in ideology or opportunity to be the leader? Okay. So we saw different parties. And I remember the 2001 elections, maybe we had 13 presidential candidates. You know, so many presidential candidates. Well, we moved on. Manawasa won those elections by 29%. Mazoka had formed UPND at that time. He came a very close second. Some actually believe he won those elections. Okay, but he came second. Okay, so Mazoka came second, and Manawasa became president. And we saw new maneuvers because Manawasa was, I can say, a weak president in terms of the number of people that had voted for him. So he needed to establish himself. And what did we see? We saw a new phenomenon of appointing people from the opposition to ministerial positions.
Yeah.
You know, we saw Deepak Patel from FDD becoming Commerce Minister, as Nedson Zoa from Heritage Party becoming a minister, Nawa in Mandevu from Heritage to becoming a minister. And so that was like an opportunity either to unite the country or to weaken the opposition, whichever way you want to look at it.
Yeah.
So Manawasa came, and his whole agenda was anti-corruption. You know, he put in a task force led by Mark Chona, task force against corruption. And the leading issue was the prosecution of his predecessor, President Chiluba. For the first time in Zambia, the immunity of a former president was lifted. You know, and we had all this discussion about Chiluba's thefts. And, you know, I remember Fred Membe, now president of Socialist Party, making a lot of noise in the Post around this issue. Okay? So, well, Manawasa led, we saw some stability economically, you know, because I think he brought in people like Magande to run finance, and my favorite agricultural minister, Mundias Katana,
Yes.
you know, the man who insisted that we can grow food throughout the year.
Yeah.
You know, very similar to what President HH is trying to push. You know, we can use cow dung. We even called him Mr. Cow Dung. You know, we can let's do these things, and we saw the economy beginning to awaken.
Yeah.
You know, and the MMD was doing good. Okay, fast forward, Manawasa's health was not too good.
Yeah.
He came around. He was a straightforward man. Somehow they convinced him to go for a second term. And he pushed his mandate, the mandate of let's fight corruption and improve the economy.
Yeah.
You know, I remember it was Manawasa who said, no one in Zambia will eat GMO. No one, because we are capable of growing our own food. It was Manawasa who apologized to the country for failing to fulfill, you know, the promises that he had made. So people loved him. And the second term, he did very well.
Yeah.
But by then, the Patriotic Front, led by Michael Sata, had gained a lot of traction.
Yeah.
The UPND, unfortunately, by the end of Manawasa's first term, Andy Mazoka had passed away. He had died. Very, very great leader. And President Hakainde had become the new president of UPND. Although their convention also was very interesting because we knew very little about HH.
Yeah.
You know, we knew that the vice president was Sakiwa Skota and Chisanga and Schinga.
Yes.
You know, these were the inner circle. But they did a very good convention where HH became the president of UPND.
Yeah.
Very young, very focused, and introduced a new politics of no insults, you know, no cadarism. Let's talk the economy. They called him calculator boy.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, I remember that. All you know is the calculator.
Calculator.
You know no politics.
Calculator boy, you know.
Yes.
So we moved on, and unfortunately, before Manawasa could finish his term, he died. But I'll tell you the things which I think were not done properly. Manawasa died before leaving an MMD vice president proper. Okay? Because when he came in, Lupando Mwape, second term, had lost elections. And you remember Nevas Mumba was once his vice president, but they had differed over something. And so he chose Rupia Banda to come in. Rupia Banda was an old retired politician living at the farm in Chipata. Okay? And at that time, we had people like Captain Chewe wanting to be vice president. We had a lot of people jostling for that position. And Manawasa had decided that there would be no vice president for MMD. You know, that probably could have contributed, you know, to the MMD's slow death. You know, so Manawasa did that. And unfortunately, at the time of his death, Rupia Banda was vice president. Okay? And George Kunda, a very qualified lawyer, explained to the country that Rupia was going to act as president towards the by-election. You know, and so Rupia became president. You know, became president 2008 to 2011. And at that time, hey, Sata's traction had grown bigger. And 2011, Sata became president. So we had the Patriotic Front. Okay, and the MMD was in disarray. You know, the MMD was in disarray because Arabi was not original MMD, and the structure of MMD was weak and shaken, and so we saw people moving. Sylvia Masebo moved to PF. You know, these were the strong MMD guys. We saw Magande form his own party. We saw a struggle for the MMD leadership. Nevas Mumba came back, you know, and called it the new whatever he called it, MMD. We saw Honorable Mtati, who is now Minister of Technology, taking the other part of MMD. The only party that remained steady was the UPND.
Yeah.
You know, they had come third in the election, but they remained steady. Okay, so PF took over, and the new PF thinking was infrastructure.
Yeah.
So let's do roads, let's do schools, let's do what, let's do this, let's do this. Of course, those promises of more money in your pocket were never really fulfilled because, I mean, where does the money come from? Okay, so PF ran. Unfortunately, again, Sata's health was ailing, and he didn't finish his term. He didn't finish his term. 2013, 2014, he got worse and died. Again, the vice president of PF was Guy Scott. The Constitution of 1990, you cannot be president of this country unless both your parents are of Zambian descent. And Guy Scott is not Zambian.
Yeah.
So PF was torn apart. You know, there was serious drama. Very, very serious drama. One group of PF wanted Mao Sampa to take over.
Yeah.
The other group of PF, where Mama Inonge was, wanted Edgar Lungu to take over. And we had that big drama going on, and Guy Scott was nowhere to be seen. Okay, so they had a convention in Kabwe where they voted via raising of hands, and Lungu became president of PF. Yeah. The following day, the other PF had a convention where Sampa became president. So someone might think that this noise we are seeing today is new. No. There's something wrong with us.
Yeah.
There's something, and that's why I always wonder, is it about saving the country? You know, is the struggle really about the country? Or are the rest of us who are called voters just pawns on the chessboard?
It's crazy.
You know, you can't understand. And if as a country we don't wake up and put things straight, these struggles will never end. Okay, so they went to court, and of course the Sampa group lost. Okay, and we had Edgar Lungu. UPND had become very strong by then.
Yeah.
They had a clear message of what they wanted to do. They were the most stable party. And we saw UPND beginning to attract the former powerful guys. Daniel Munkombwe, you know, former Southern Province Minister, moved. Mutati moved. You know, we had Masebo moved. All this became UPND. Well, UPND lost narrowly in the by-election, and Edgar Lungu became president. Okay, when Edgar Lungu became president, he had mentioned that he had no vision of his own, but that he would pick on and move on with the vision that the party had. So we saw movement in the infrastructure business going on, but something unfortunate began to grow. Cadarism. You know, we now began to see
that was something else.
What we had seen in the UNIP days resurfacing on a larger scale. You know, someone would just go to an anthill near the road, put a PF Chitenge, and they become the owner of the territory. You know, we saw the council becoming powerless. The police becoming powerless. Literally, you had to be in green. And it meant everything. You know? So we saw that. And for those of us that were young in the UNIP days, we actually saw the reemergence of the vigilante era, you know, into that. So, wow, UPND continued pushing, you know, of course they went to court. Yeah, but it didn't work. We had an election the following year, 2016. 2016 was a tight battle.
Yes.
Very, very tight battle. But again, what we saw was the reduction of space for the opposition. You know, they could not access public media. You know, they were threatened with violence. There was all this disaster going on. Okay, but again, Lungu won. Of course, they went to court, and UPND lost by a technicality. You know, that 14 days had elapsed. Okay, and Lungu came back as president to continue his second term.
Yeah.
You know, which later on we were told the first one was not a term. Again, you keep wondering with what's wrong with
how do they interpret this?
Yeah, what's
this
the interpretation?
constitution
You know? Yeah. So Lungu continued, and at that time he had mentioned that it was his last term. You know, but between 2016 and 2021, Zambia saw things.
Yes.
Yeah, and I should say, the current president Hichilema, I'm yet to think of any other person that could have suffered political abuse.
Yeah.
You know, more than him. You know, and these are things that should never happen again in this country.
Yeah.
You know, no one should be treated like that in his own country just for deciding to participate. You know, in the national selection of leadership.
It was horrifying.
If you remember what he went through, this gentleman, HH, he goes to a radio station, there's an attack. You know, this is a gentleman who had to go through a roof. You know, he had to go through a roof, running away from cadres. You know, he goes to an airport, he goes to a province, he wants to talk to people. He's told, get back on the plane and go back. You know, you cannot be here. You cannot. You can't just be here. You know, and so we saw the shrinking of space, and particularly targeting one person.
One person, yeah.
You know, targeting just one person, tribally abused.
Yeah.
You know, I can never think of a Republican president standing up in public and saying, we will have a Tonga president someday, but not this one. You know, no, guys. No. I don't think we can sink to such levels. You know,
it's the venom.
We can't sink to such levels. This is just an individual. He's a Zambian. He's a citizen like you.
Yeah.
But I mean, we got to those levels, and I can say to President HH here, please, never in the history of this country should such be tolerated.
Yeah.
You know, under your watch, Your Excellency, we don't want to see any Zambian treated the way you were treated.
Yeah.
You know, we wouldn't want to see that. I mean, if I chose to be president, I don't think I would have as thick a skin as he had to go through that. Yeah, so it was tough. Ultimately, COVID came, and that seemed to work to the advantage of shrinking the space. No gatherings, no whatever, no. And then worst of all, there was a misdemeanor. You know, the president is going to Mungu. For Kuomboka, HH is also going to Mungu. I don't really know what happened there, but following day we hear there's treason.
Yeah.
You know, and this gentleman is in jail. You know, he's in jail because of treason, and the country is tense.
Yeah.
Very, very tense. You know, we should never go back to those days, you know, if really our interest is to save this country.
Yeah.
The situation is very tense. Fortunately, as fate would have it, he's released.
Yeah.
He comes out of there very strong.
Very positive.
Very, very strong. The man is driving from Livingstone town by town, announcing that he's alive.
Yeah.
And things will have to work.
Yeah.
And somehow, the Zambians were quite silent. You know, we didn't really seem to know what they were thinking. You know? 12th August, 2021. Unprecedented. Those queues. People moved with mattresses to go and sleep at the polling station because they were angry. And that is why every politician should know the biggest opposition party is never a political party.
No, it's the people.
It is the people.
Yeah.
You know, and that is why sometimes when opposition parties are talking too much, you don't need to read too much into what they're saying.
Pay attention.
It is the people.
Yeah.
It is the people. Ultimately, it is the people.
Yes.
Okay? And so we saw crazy things. Of course, we had sad escapades. Someone was killed in Northwestern Province.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was trying to stuff ballot papers. And people were too angry.
Yeah.
Okay? We saw things happening in the country. And from the first counting, it appeared it was UPND's time.
Yeah.
They were leading from the beginning to the very end. We are told, and I'm saying we are told, there was a bit of resistance. There was some reconciliation, done by RB between Lungu outgoing and HH incoming.
Yeah.
And here we are. We have the UPND in power. Okay? So the coming of the UPND, how did it breathe a sigh of relief for many people? It was the pronouncements of the president that under his watch, there should never be violence again. That bus stations and markets must be given back to councils.
Yeah.
That the police will be in charge of the rule of law. Okay? So I think that to me was a shift from what had become the norm of muscle men. People that have been spent time in the gym lifting metals, fear all over the country. So we saw that.
Yeah.
And apart from that, we also saw that the new Dawn administration was now talking much more about economic recovery.
Yeah.
Let us recover the economy. Let's get back. It's now 4 years.
Yeah.
And we have elections next year. What are we seeing? There's some steady maintenance of the message. But again, we seem to be seeing an ugly re-emergence of politics that are not good for the country.
Yeah.
And most of that politics is again in the immediate past ruling party. Today we are seeing splinters within, the party. There's one president, holding one part of the party.
Yeah.
I don't know how many candidates want to take over the other part of the party.
Yeah.
And we're having this sort of confusion. Okay. We are also seeing our colleagues in the opposition, regardless of who they are, not having a clear message of why they want to take over government.
Yeah.
I think for me, that would be my interest. Okay. What is UPND's approach? UPND's approach is let there be free education. And they are saying this free education should now be law. Whoever comes in should never change that. Okay. UPND's approach is that we should increase CDF, more money to the lower levels of society. UPND's approach is the revamping of the mines and also the empowering of citizens to participate in sharing these natural resources through artisanal licenses. UPND's approach is that let's become food secure. Let us do irrigation. 500,000 hectares of land should be under irrigation. UPND's approach is that we must have the rule of law. Now, what I want to see is what are the opposition parties saying, which would be better ideas.
No, but
because as Build Zambia 2064, our thinking is that Zambia must be first.
Yeah, but they cannot say anything because they don't have a leader.
Yeah,
but it's through a leader that you can hear their voice, that you can hear what they want to give the country. But as it is now, we don't have a formidable opposition party which we can say, okay, this guy has a clear vision for the country.
And so maybe this is why sometimes we ask questions as Build Zambia. If we don't have the opposition, why should we waste money on elections?
I love that.
Okay. Okay. Because look, printing of ballot papers is not a cheap thing.
Yeah.
So if we have reached a stage as a country where we are saying, as things stand, there is no opposition that has a message, then why should we have elections? Okay? So, because this is now about 7-8 months to go before elections, there has to be an opposition front.
Yes.
Which is now saying this is the way to go. And this is the message we have. Look, you cannot satisfy me by Facebook presence.
No.
No. You're just present on Facebook and you want to go into an election? That's a waste of national resources.
Yeah.
It's a waste of national resources. So we have seen that now the UPND government says, let's have Bill 7. Again, I've not studied it so much, but I've seen it. There are arguments. Again, we are hearing the loudest voices against Bill 7 are not the political parties. The loudest voices are the civil society organizations. And not all of them. A selected group of civil society organizations. What we are hearing from the ruling party is that this is about delimitation. Because constituencies are too big and the constitution says we must. The constitution says we must do it within 10 years. Okay? They are talking about proportional representation. They are talking about increasing presence of the disabled, the women and the youths in those leadership positions. What we want to see is someone who comes up and says 1, 2, 3, 4 things are not good.
Yeah.
For me, that is what we expect.
But we live in a country where there are no debates. There are no intellectual debates. There's nobody who's willing to sit and look at a document and really analyze a document intellectually and decipher it to a point where every Zambian can understand. The reason why we're having divergent views is because even us, we are lazy to read the documents. And number two, they are politically inclined. And some of us, we don't like politics. So it becomes very difficult to really consume an idea and make it plain. Because even the UPND themselves, they haven't told us what is in Bill 10.
No,
in Bill 7.
No, you haven't read. They have told you. The Bill 7 is all over. It's all over the place. It's all over. It's all over the place. The issue is, look, and this is, I love Zambia. I love Zambia so much. If we are all agreed that this is the direction the country should take in order to develop, let us agree that we don't need opposition.
Yeah, but my point is, I can read the document, but I can interpret it differently. I need somebody from the UPND to explain the document in their own understanding. We need somebody from the opposition to explain the document. And probably I should put it to Build Zambia also. They should explain the document so that we know which direction does it. Is it pro building Zambia to 2064 for us to be a better nation?
So the issue is, I'll ask you, huge constituencies. Is it helpful if they are divided?
Yes, they are.
That's what is in Bill 7. Okay. So the Bill 7 is saying Kalomo constituency or Kanchivia constituency is too big. For me, unless someone tells me otherwise, if we are putting 40 million CDF in Kanchivia, if we divide it, we are going to put 80 million.
Yeah.
So I don't see how that can be opposed. Okay? We are saying the voices of the disabled, because these guys, our politics are brutal. They cannot manage to run with the able-bodied guys.
Yeah.
So let's have a constitution which gives them space. Is that a bad idea?
No.
Let's have a constitution that gives a bit more space to women. Because running on our political terrain, we will always have less than the numbers we have agreed at SADC.
Yeah.
Is that a bad idea? So these are the things. Maybe what you could do is invite someone from the UPND and invite someone from the opposition to come and discuss this on this podcast.
I think
okay? So that Zambians can now understand, because what Zambia should move away from is to reject something because it has come from someone I don't like.
That's probably the downside.
Let's not reject something because it comes from someone I don't like.
And I think as we conclude, and I think the you know how negatives move. Negatives are so bad.
Faster.
They move faster than the positives. And so for me, this hurt and let's just love one another and do the right thing for the country. If Bill 7 is speaking positive for us to be a better country, let's go with it.
Yeah.
Okay? Probably let's have somebody who can explain, somebody they should find. Now, as we conclude, Doc, the politics in this country are about hate speech, are about personal attacks. They are about, huge, unbalanced, views, probably personal agendas. There's nothing really, and there's no one really who speaks to the country and for the country, and really to see that Zambia can reach, first world status. What is your take on it?
My take is that we are happy now that the intermarriages are going to help.
Which intermarriage?
Yeah, the intermarriages are going to help because
no,
where we are coming from, we have been too regional, too tribal. Now that we're having a Jelo, having a child with a Walia, a Mizinga, having a child with a Banda, a Simuchimba, having a child with a Mundia.
But that has always been there.
It has been there, but it wasn't good enough.
Okay.
But I think now we are going to have a generation that is tribeless. Okay, we are going to have a generation that is tribeless. My paternal grandfather is Namwanga, my mother is Tonga, my what is... I think that's going to help. But in addition to that, we need deliberately, as civil society organizations, to talk much more about Zambia without even mentioning tribes. Build Zambia is talking about 40 years of focus. In that 40 years of focus, one of the things we must focus on is that the common denominator for every citizen is Zambia and not your tribe.
Yeah.
Okay? So ultimately, that's where we should be pushing to. And I like the situation in which we are. Every transition must have a rough patch. But I believe that we are transitioning in the right direction. If you look at where we have come from, Kaunda, Chiruba, Mwanawasa, we have never really outgrown our heads. We have never outgrown our regional bias. But perhaps now we are getting to a level where we are saying, okay, we are seeing a balanced cabinet. Every province is represented. Okay, we are seeing some talk of development in every corner of the country. We should now transition to, there should never be a time in this country when someone will talk about stronghold based on the tribe where you come from. No. And we must get to a level now where being an MP must not be based on regions. It must be based on capacity. We must see a Mr. Banda MP for Kasama Central. We must see a Mr. Walia MP for Choma Central. We must see a Mr. Smwanza MP for Mongo Central. Because at the end of the day, if I have lived in Mongo all my life, but I'm not Lozi, I understand this place. Why should it be, it has to do with bloodline? We are no longer in that kind of thinking. So we need to get to those levels. Even at presidential level, we must now move away from, no, this one is not ours, our regional bloc. What regional bloc? So we must get together.
Politics, you can go on and on and on. We'll have another part 2 of politics. But for now, we are so grateful that you joined us. And so see you the next time.